Okay, so welcome to our January, what?
January 21st.
21st, 2016, Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority Youth One-Stop Affiliate Program. And today we're going to talk about, at least for an hour, we're going to talk about employment planning workshop, something we've been doing in the school all week and something you can see on YouTube. But we're going to start with the way we usually start, which is a little bit about information about the school where I work, and then why we do what we do and how we do what we do. Okay? So I am the Director of Education at Larson Training Centers, which is a post-secondary school. And what is that, Bryce? Post-secondary?
School, it's after high school.
After high school, yeah, post-secondary. So it's after high school. So to go to our school, you have to either have a high school GED, high school diploma, or be 18 years old. How many people here are not that? Oh, good. Everybody is that. Or have an exception to one of those things. So we are licensed by the state. And schools like ours, post-secondary schools, career schools, vocational schools, their primary purpose is what, Desmond? Who knows? What's the primary purpose of a school like ours?
To seek employment?
Yeah, it's for employment, not education. And that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're hearing me talk about stuff, because hello, what is your name?
Patsy?
Patsy?
Yeah.
P-A-T-S-Y. P, what?
P-A-T-S-Y?
Oh, Patsy.
Yes.
Okay, Patsy, okay. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind when you hear what I'm talking about, because what I'm talking about is for the purpose of employment, not just for knowledge. It's not just theoretical stuff. It's for how to get employment. And when we say employment, I don't mean a job. When I say a job, I mean something that you get to pay the bills. And a job is very important. But our school, no, you can't sit there.
Oh.
That computer doesn't work. You're not going to want to sit there. You can sit there. I apologize. You can sit there, but that computer won't get you online. So, when we say a job, when I say job, I mean something to pay the bills. I don't mean career. Our school is for the purpose of helping you get a career. And at 1 o'clock, we'll start talking about what you need to do to get a career. And it's probably different than what you've been told. The reason it's different than what you've been told is that Larson, our students work on it for 16 weeks. It's not just we're going to help you create a resume, it's we're going to help you get a career. And we're going to put you on a path towards a career. And that's just not something that other places are really set up to do. They're trying to help you get a job, which is what, Desmond? When I talk about job, it's what?
Something you need to pay the bills.
Pay the bills, right. Something you need to pay the bills. What kind of people get jobs in a positive sense?
People who are just out of high school.
Well, pass. Next. What kind of people get jobs?
People who don't have a particular skill.
No.
Someone doesn't have
No. In a positive way. What kind of people should get jobs? What kind of people get jobs where it's part of the program, the plan?
People who are working toward their careers.
Okay. People that are working towards their career. Like what? So that's kind of another way of better stating what I said. Okay, it could be while you're going to college, you have a job to pay the bills. Okay, who else? Okay, and that's what Nolan Bushnell did. I don't remember if he said that when he was here, but when he started Atari, he was an engineer at National Semiconductor. He didn't quit National Semiconductor until Atari was very far along. Okay, so who else besides people going to school and people that are... Huh? What?
I'm not too sure. People, I just think about people paying bills and ask for help.
Okay, how about, Patsy, do you have any ideas? What kind of a person should get a job?
People with experience.
Well, not necessarily. Okay, so here's what I'm looking for, so I'm not communicating very well. The people who should get jobs are people that are doing this because they're pursuing their career. It's until their career happens. Like who? Like what kind of people? How about actors? How about entertainers? How about guys that are magicians? People that, so why would an actor be a waiter, have a job as a waiter?
Because until you get big, acting is going to pay the bills. It's more of a hobby.
Well, it's your pursuit. When you go to a party and they say, what do? You say, I'm an actor. And they say, well, what have you been in? And they say, well, I haven't gotten anything big yet. And they say, well, what do you do to pay the bills? And then what do they say? Waiter, bartender, I work in a pizza parlor. You know, they do whatever they do. But, you know, when they go and somebody says, what do you do? They say, I'm an actor, I'm a singer. Okay, I'm a graphic artist. You know, they say that. So it's okay to have a job to pay the bills if you see yourself as something different. I'm in school, I'm a student, I'm a whatever. So on the employment stuff that you've been doing, it might seem like I'm critical. I'm not critical. Something is usually better than nothing, and what you've been doing so far is better than nothing, but it really isn't what you need to do. And I think in an hour we can at least get you on the right path. But what everybody should do is talk to your counselor about going to school at Larson. Now, that's going to be a thing that I can introduce for. Do you know who Nolan Bushnell is? Do you know who Nolan Bushnell is? Okay, have you ever heard of a game called Pong? Okay, have you ever heard of a game called, okay, have you ever heard of a company called Atari?
Yeah, I have an Atari.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a company called Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater? Have you, Adrian?
Yeah.
You've heard of Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah.
Okay. So the guy who started those was here last week. Talked for what, about a half hour? I don't know. About an hour. He was here last week talking for about an hour. So at the end of the day when I was with him and we were at the bar having some beers, because that's when you become the most creative, alcohol. I'm just kidding. He said what he wants to do, what he wants me to help do here is to create the Entrepreneurs Academy for people. And I said, well, no, what do you mean by entrepreneur? He said, anybody that starts their own business. And what are some examples he gave last week of businesses to start? The really simple ones. Walking dogs, what else?
Simple things.
eBay,
Yeah.
okay, selling, going to the people on the street.
Grab their junk and
Yeah,
sell it.
picking it and selling it on eBay. And
Yeah,
turning them
and it's not taking it, it's just taking pictures of it,
Exactly.
putting it on eBay, cataloging.
Bullshit, yeah.
Okay, so he's saying anybody that starts a business, he's going to create the Nolan Bushnell Entrepreneurs Academy. It's not free, but it's really cheap. So it's designed for the following types of people. One, people who graduate from high school, but they don't want to go to college. But their parents are willing to pay for them to go to college, but they just, they don't want to go to college. They don't have a plan. And a lot of people go to college, especially UNLV, because they don't want to have a plan. It postpones for 4 years what you do, right? So it's for those people. If your parents are going to pay for you to go to college, don't go to college. Go to the Entrepreneurs Academy. So one group of people is that. It's for people who can't go to college, but they don't want to just be an employee somewhere. They want to have their own business. It's for people who are, say, like me, or somebody like me who went to law school and is a professional and said, I want to start a business, but I want to have coaching, I want to have guidance from a guy who started some of the biggest things in the world. That's who I want to have. I don't want to go make mistakes myself. And just a note for everybody that wants to start their business, you're going to, at some point you're going to have to get an attorney, and the attorney will generally say, I need a $5,000 retainer. That's a prepay. So if you have somebody like Nolan on board, you could probably save that $5,000. And so it's for people who are professional, guys that say, you know what, I'm going to start my own business. I know exactly what I'm going to do, but I don't want to do it the hard way. I want to do it the easy way. I want to have somebody who I can say, what do you think about this? How about if I do it this way? And I want to have the best guy in the world. How much do you think that would cost if you had Nolan as a consultant? Huh?
Sounds like it would cost a lot.
Wouldn't you think it would cost a lot? Okay, so it's $500 a month, okay, which I know is a lot. But if you want to start a business, or if your parents are going to pay for, how much does it cost to go to UNLV? Huh?
I don't particularly know.
Anybody know?
I'd say like 25,000, 30,000 a year.
A year? Okay, I think maybe if you're out of state student, but I think in-state it's like 8,000 to 10,000. I would rather have tutoring, in quotes, tutoring, coaching, teaching from Nolan Bushnell than I would from a teacher's aide. And I'd want to know what I would want to know. So part of the curriculum is accounting. And that is taking a QuickBooks class that our school happens to teach. So you have to be successful in business, you have to know accounting, you have to know numbers. Another thing is a little bit of business law. I think everybody here knows I have a law degree. But it's business law, because if you want to be in business for yourself, you've got to. I went to law school because, this is a long time ago, but there was a study in California, which is where I'm from, that said by the year 2020, there will be more attorneys in California than people. That's a joke. But so in other words, if you're going to go into business in California and there's attorneys everywhere, either you need to be an attorney or you need to have a partner, like your brother or somebody who is an attorney who's your partner, because it's just too much litigation. So, so part of the curriculum is learning basic business law. But the starting point, another part, and then we'll move on, is to go to trade shows. So the first month or 2 months, all you're doing is going to trade shows every day. Why would you do that? You know what a trade show is? Okay, well, Las Vegas is huge for trade shows. So like they might have a convention for, last week it was CES, Computer Electronics Show.
Okay, so like conventions then, right?
Yeah, so you go to conventions. So for the people in them, it's called a trade show.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you know, the exhibitors, you know, the people who have the booths, they call it a trade show. Trade meaning not trade, but trade meaning our trade, the business we're in.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a pizza show here. There's
Like tattoo and stuff, yeah.
there's all kinds of shows here. So the first part is you go to trade shows the whole time, and then you have to do certain things at the trade show, find the best product, do a report, a presentation on it, etc. But you go to trade shows, so you're exposed to what's going on out there. And that's tremendous value. So I am proud to announce that probably in May, we'll be out starting the Entrepreneurs Academy, or the Nolan Bushnell Entrepreneurs Academy, and that's something you guys should think of. And what Nolan would say is everybody here should own their own business. That's the that's the best way to have financial security. And after we left here, we did a couple other talks. One of the things he said at another place was, when you work for somebody else, you're working for wholesale.
Right.
What does that mean?
Meaning making companies, not their money.
What's wholesale in business? What's the wholesale price of shoes if you're a shoe store?
That's where you get it cheaper, right? Because you buy a lot.
Wholesale, okay, so when you go to a shoe store, the price you pay is called retail, right? So like you've heard of retail stores, what do? I work retail. That's where the business sells products to the end user, to the consumer. Okay, that's retail. Wholesale is the price that that shoe store buys the shoes.
So like bulk.
Huh?
Like bulk.
Well, they buy it in bulk, but it's not about that. It's about, if you sell a pair of Nikes for $100, are you going to buy them for $100 if you're the store?
You buy them for 70 or 60.
And you make
more like half.
Yeah.
Okay? So wholesale is the price that the retailer buys their products for. So Nolan said when you work for somebody, you're working for wholesale price. Okay, they're paying you, buying your time for a certain amount, and reselling it for a higher amount. So here's an example. Let's say you're an attorney, and the attorney bills at $200 an hour. Do you think the attorney gets paid $200 an hour? No. So that law firm is selling that attorney's time for how much? $200 an hour. How much do you think the attorney's getting?
No.
Maybe like 50?
Yeah, maybe like $50 an hour. And why don't they give them 200?
Because they want to cover all their overhead costs.
Exactly, because they have to pay for their rent, insurance, supplies, paralegal. They have all of their other costs that come out of it. But Nolan's point is, why would you want to work and get paid $50 an hour when you could do the same thing and get 200? It's another reason to go into business for yourself. So at our school, at Larson, we give people the skills they need to have stable and meaningful employment in the future. We don't teach people to be entrepreneurs. The state, none of the agencies will pay a school to teach people to be entrepreneurs. They want to teach people to be people who get paychecks. Why?
Because they want to keep it that way so they make more money.
Okay, yeah, because if you get a paycheck, what comes out of your paycheck before you get it? Taxes,
Yeah.
right? If you're an entrepreneur, what are you getting? You're getting the growth, you're getting $200 an hour. They don't take taxes out of it.
Yeah.
When you go to a store and buy tennis shoes, do you take the taxes out when you buy the shoes? No, you give them the money for taxes, right? And they may pay it or they might not. A lot of companies break the law, they don't pay their taxes. They charge the customer, but they do some funny accounting and they don't pay the tax. So, but if you're an employee, the tax comes out before you get your money. And so for the state, that's a good trade-off. We're going to educate you, we're going to pay for you to get an education because we want you to go get a job where you get a paycheck, where they take out withholdings, and then we get money for that, so we both win. You get an education and you end up paying for it out of your taxes. So, okay, so now that's what we do. Very, this is the thing that you should feel very good about being here because the quality of the instruction that you're getting today is extremely high. You wouldn't get this at UNLV, you wouldn't get this anywhere else because A, I have a good undergraduate education, B, I have a law degree, C, I spend my time doing this and I do it with people who are in more difficult situations than you are, like they're in prison. They get to leave prison to come to school. Or they live at a shelter. Some people here do. They live at a place like that, but they're older. And so it's not as easy for them. So it's not a case of I'm somebody standing here telling you about stuff, but I don't know what I'm talking about. I do. So, and I do this all the time, so I'm in pretty good condition to do it. And I have a pretty good memory. So that's a good segue for our last 35 minutes of the first part is why do we do things the way we do? And, because of what? No, why do we? Why does the school? Okay, but I'm going to take a segue for a second. At the school, the fundamental purpose of the school, and you should write these things in your book, is we answer the questions, why do I do? Now that's the second question. First question is, who am I? And the second one is, why do I behave as I do? Okay, that's the fundamental things we start with in the school at Larson. Why, who am I and why do I behave the way I do? Why does that matter?
The way they behave?
Number one, why does it matter who I am? Does it matter who you are in terms of getting a job, Desmond?
You gotta care about yourself for your somebody else.
Yeah.
Why?
You have to know if you'll be right for the job. Because if you're someone who doesn't like numbers, you're probably not gonna wanna be an accountant.
Yeah.
No, no.
Okay, here's the reason why. Let's say this is the average person. Okay? This is who you think you are. Has anybody seen this? Everybody seen this? Okay, who you think you are, your self-perception. Who others think you are, and who you actually are. Okay? Who here thinks this is how you would, that this is how it is for you? So, Adrian, do you think the way you think you are is the same as other people?
No.
And do you think you are what you actually think you are, your skills are?
Maybe I know.
Okay, it
But
kind
not
of depends what it
totally.
is we're talking about.
Yeah.
Desmond, how about you?
Sort of along the lines of what she said, except in that last part, who I think I actually am.
No, this is who you actually are.
Right. I feel like that would actually be a bit different because.
Okay, so let's do this. We only have a brown pen. So Desmond, just in our thing of operating out in the world, if somebody says, what do you think Desmond's talents are? What do you think your talents are, Desmond? And they said to other people, what do you think of Desmond? Now, would you be above this line or below? This is the average line.
I'd say it'd be slightly above average.
Okay. So let's say you say you're here. Okay? Now, where do you think other people see you?
Well, realistically.
No,
below
imaginatively.
average.
Huh?
Maybe below average.
Okay, you think other people see you here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we could find out, we have Desmond take a test and find out where he actually is. Why does it matter? Why does this matter? If your profile is like this, what does that say about you?
That means that people think very highly of you.
Other people perceive you more higher than you perceive yourself, and you perceive yourself higher than you actually are. When is that good?
You know,
No.
you show.
Not good.
No, it's good in a certain circumstance.
Well, it's, I guess if you're doing like,
Okay, so this is the profile you want for one of the first laws of power, which is power perceived is power what? Achieved. Okay. So wouldn't you want to be like this, Adri? If it was a struggle type of situation that people perceive that you have more power than you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about if your profile is like this? What is that person called?
What is that person called? Arrogant.
Arrogant, egomaniac,
Low ego.
okay? Sociopath, psychopath, okay? They think they're up here, and let's say the average is there. They think their talents are here. Other people see it as here, but they're really here. Caution. This is a profile of people who take meth. Their perception is that they can do things that are just really good. And other people say, well, that guy's just, hey, I'm rebuilding my car engine, I'm rebuilding this clock, I'm rebuilding this thing. And they have everything spread out. And they're saying, I'm doing this great thing. Other people's perception is, wow, he's kind of smart because he can do that, but he's not up here. And the rest of the world says, this guy's a nutcase. This is what happens on meth, on marijuana, your self-perception tends to go up. I'm really creative. I can really do a lot. And so, but there are good, important situations for this. If you tell somebody they have to do something that's impossible, say you're a Navy SEAL. So I used to train Navy SEALs that got out of the Navy. One of the guys we had, his job was to parachute into a place with a 150-pound suitcase nuclear bomb on his back, deliver that nuclear weapon, and try to get out before it went off. Okay. A rational person knows you're not going to get away from that. Okay? What if he thought he's not going to get away? Is he going to really want to do that? No. So they have people, these guys believe they can do impossible things. That was a good profile. And are those people important? Yeah, those people are very important when everything gets really, really bad. Like if the Iranians start doing suitcase bombs in this country, do you think we're not going to do the same thing? Yeah, we're going to do the same thing. So they have people that, Navy SEALs have people that that's what they train to do. It's not an actual 150-pound nuclear weapon, but it's 150 pounds of something. Or maybe it's 100 pounds. Or maybe it's 80 pounds and they tell them it's an 80-pound thing. But when it's really, it's 200 pounds. When they actually have to do it, because if they told them is they wouldn't get to this profile. So the answer to question number one, who am I, is very important depending upon what you want to do. Because sometimes you need to believe you can do things that other people don't believe you can, or that you don't have the talent to do. And one of the things about being successful is perseverance. Is just not giving up. Sometimes people win. It's the last man standing. What's that? What's that mean? Desmond, last man standing.
Are you just referring to a process of elimination?
Yeah, I won because everybody else is gone. I didn't achieve the goal because I didn't win. It's just everybody else fell out of the race. I'm the only guy who finished. I didn't have talent. So I've said in here before, one of the things about the Navy SEALs is they don't know who's going to make it through BUD/S, basic training, before they do it. So they have like 3, 4, 5 times, 10 times the number of people start that actually finish. And so one of the guys I said, how did you get through basic training? And what did he say? Anybody remember? I think I said in here.
He'd rather die?
Yeah, he said he convinced himself, I'd rather die than quit. He convinced himself he'd rather die than quit. And the drill instructor is saying to himself, I don't think this guy's going to make it. And I need to prey on the weak. I need to get rid of the guys. As soon as we need to get this down to this. Instead of prolonging the agony, I need to start picking people off in the first hour of training. So if the instructor thinks you're here, they're going to be focused on you a lot more up front. Get rid of those guys, get it down to the smallest number of people. So when Hell Week comes, where you don't get to sleep for a week, you actually get a couple hours sleep, but you basically don't get to sleep for a couple weeks. The only guys left in that are the guys that have a greater than, have a more than a typical chance of succeeding. So it's important to know who you are because of what you want to do. And you might need to persuade yourself, here's who I need to become. You might need to persuade yourself, no, here's who I need to become. Because I don't really have as much talent as I should, but if people think I do, then they're going to treat me like I do, and then I'm going to get in. I'm going to get what I want because they believe. So like if there was a movie out recently, newspaper thing, and the newspaper guy is trying to get a story from somebody. And the guy doesn't want to give him the story. He doesn't want to cooperate with him. And finally, the reporter says, look, there's two stories here. One is a story about the church on child pornography, and the other one is about attorneys covering up the church on child pornography. Which story do you want? He said that to the attorney. The newspapers try to do a story on the church and child abuse. And the attorneys who were representing the church were not cooperating. So they flipped it around. The reporters flipped it around and said, we're going to do one of two stories. It's either on them or it's on you. And if you don't want it on you, you better cooperate with me. That's this profile right here. Power perceived is power achieved. The reporter who said that might not have had the ability to get the story run. Because the attorneys might have said, if you run a story like that, we're going to sue you. And then the magazine says, okay, well, we won't do it. We'll do the other one. But the reporter persuaded the attorney, this is what I'm going to do to you if you don't do the right thing. So sometimes this is a good profile. Sometimes this is a good profile. Sometimes, well, this profile doesn't exist, but sometimes this is a good profile, where you actually have more talent than people think you do. Let's say you're playing cards and you have a winning hand. Do you want everybody else to know you have you have a royal flush? Do you want them to know you have a royal flush?
No.
Why not?
So you can-
Because you want them to keep betting.
Because they'll fold, right? Second they know they're not going to win, they're out. What do you want them to think that you have?
a bad hand.
Yeah, a weak hand. But if you have a weak hand, what do you want them to believe? You want them to believe this. Okay? So, virtually all of the time, we never ask the question of who am I really? What are my skills versus what people perceive me as versus who I think I am? So it's kind of get real. It's important to get real because when you're going in for a job or a job interview, you might need to play or accentuate one of these roles. This is one here where they believe you're really committed to the company. Their perception of you is greater than reality. So the second question is, why do I behave the way I do? And what do most people think?
They were raised that way.
Okay, raised that way. What else? That's nurture.
And
They were born that way.
Yeah. That is what? It's not nurture, it's right, it's nature. This is who I am. I can't change. This is me. I'm rude, I'm obnoxious. That's just me. Take me the way I am. The reality is, it's not us. We're always changing. 10 years from now, if you keep these books and 10 years from now you go back and you read it, you're going to say, boy, I've changed a lot. I've changed a lot since then. But right now you think this is who I am, right? This is me. 10 years you're going to look back at you today and you're going to say, wow, boy, have I really changed a lot. So why do we behave the way we do? So the superficial thing is, I was either born that way or that's how I was raised. At our school, we take it down to, no, that's just too simple of an answer. Let's take it down to a cellular level. Why am I the way I am on a cellular level? And this is where we come to humans, how we are different from other primates or any other life form. And so we are primates, right? Okay, just the same as, not the same, but the same family as gorillas and monkeys and chimpanzees and things like that. When they compare our brain to a monkey brain, a chimpanzee brain, a gorilla brain, do we have any parts of our brain that they don't have?
Cerebral cortex, right?
Well, they do too, but not like ours.
Like bigger.
But not like ours. Like, do we have a little organ in there that's a transmitter receiver to an invisible man in the sky?
No.
No, we don't. Do people think we do? What is praying? Okay, that's a transmitter, right? We're transmitting and receiving information in a way that breaks the laws of physics as we know them. Okay, a lot of people believe that. And they behave based upon there's an invisible man in the sky who, if I do certain things, is going to bless me today or right now, in the near future, with what I'm asking for. Or in the worst case, maybe I'll be rewarded when I die. Okay, that's one reason a lot of people believe the way they do, behave the way they do, is they have a belief that in our brain or in our heart is this certain little organ that no other primate has. And guess what they found?
Nothing.
Doesn't exist. Okay, there is no other organ to do that. But they found that there's major differences, not in the structure of the brain, but in the complexity of the brain, which is what?
The cerebral cortex.
The cerebral cortex. And then when they looked at the cerebral cortex and they said, what's the difference between our brain and a primate brain, what did they find in our cerebral cortex?
Bigger.
Because it's made up of what?
More neurons.
More cells that are called neurons. And how many neurons do we have?
80
Billion?
billion.
A bazillion? Did you say a bazillion?
No, I
Oh,
said
okay.
8 billion.
Okay. Yeah, about 80 billion neurons. And that was the most complete story. So typically what you'll hear is about 100 billion. But somebody actually did the study and they found out, and there's a TED talk on it, there's about 80 billion. And of those 80 billion, how many are part of the cerebral cortex? So these are things that you should write down because people will be impressed. And that comes under what? Power perceived is power achieved, right? If you impress people. Okay, so 80 billion neurons. Okay? Cerebral cortex has about 16 billion. Now, when you compare our cerebral cortex with any other primate, we have a lot more, many magnitudes more cerebral neurons. And the belief, the hypothesis is that there is a certain number, a tipping point, where once you have a certain number of neurons, you can do things that no other primate can do. So what can we do with our brain that other primates can't do?
Simulate.
Simulate, okay? We have an internal simulator. So if we're making a certain type of ice cream that I like to talk about, what is the ice cream that we don't need to make and taste it and then say yuck?
Like liver.
Liver and onion ice cream, okay? So we don't have to make a batch of liver and onion ice cream and taste it and say yuck. We can simulate that in our brain. And we have an imagination, which is another type of simulation, right? We can imagine things. Where simulate kind of connotes something before it happens. Like I'm in a plane simulator. This is like being in a plane. Where imagination can have nothing to do with reality, right? We can imagine things. Like if I say to you, have you ever seen your mother in a blue dress? Can you picture your mother in a blue dress? Can you picture your mother on a motorcycle wearing a blue dress? Not do you want to picture it, can you? Can you picture it? Yeah, we can. Okay, has anybody ever seen their mother on a motorcycle wearing a blue dress? No, but we can imagine that. So there's a certain number of neurons that you need to have in order to be able to do this. So that is we live in a symbolic or synthetic reality. Okay? Or actually subjective reality. I'll say that to be consistent. So animals live in what's called an objective reality. Okay, what's that?
It could be confusing the definition, but is an objective, no, I guess it can't be, no.
Give an example of something that's objective reality.
Objective reality is like all the physical world.
Yeah.
There's nothing in your head.
Trees, floor, desks, computer, animals, all non-humans only live in an objective reality world. Okay, because they can't simulate and they don't have imaginations like we do. Some animals, some mammals, some creatures appear to be able to have some amount of imagination or simulation, but not anywhere on the scale of what we have. And it could be just trained. Okay, so they live in an objective reality. We live in a subjective reality also. We live in both. And it comes back to neurons. Not that we have a special organ somewhere hidden in our body that is a receiver transmitter to some other force that enables us to do things that we can't do. In other words, it's all in our minds. That doesn't mean religion is not important. So I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about subjective reality. So is money a subjective reality? Yeah. The piece of paper is not. That's objective reality, right? That's a piece of paper. So a thought experiment would be, if you're a chimpanzee and I'm a chimpanzee and I have some bananas, and you want to trade those bananas for me, and you give me a dollar bill, am I going to give you bananas?
No.
Why not?
You can't eat a dollar bill.
Yeah. So I'm going to smell it, I'm going to try to taste it, I'm going to maybe rub it on my arm, and I'm going to find out that this has no value. But what if you walk into a store where there's a perfect stranger and they sell bananas and you give them a dollar bill, are they going to accept it? Yeah. Because we all believe, so subjective reality is based upon a belief. We believe that it has value. And if everybody believes the same story, it has value. Now let's say you walk in that store, Walmart, and you want to give them a Russian doll for the banana. Are they going to accept it? No. Why?
Because it's not represented in our
Because we don't believe it has value here. Okay? We believe it has value there, but we don't believe it has value here. So we live in a subjective reality world. This is why we behave the way we do. Because of our brain, neurons. We have a certain number of neurons. Nobody knows the exact number you need in order to do this, to be able to simulate and imagine things. But we do know that people who have very low IQs or have had brain damage, guess what they can't do? Yeah, maybe they're in a coma, they can breathe, they digest food, they can do stuff, their organs and things will work, but they have no brain activity. So this is why we behave the way we do. And ultimately it comes down to the subjective reality part is where we either do well or do bad. So the thing you need to write down in your books is you need to make sure that you do not tell yourself negative things. These 80 billion neurons, how many of them know who you are?
Like individually?
Yeah, how many of them know who you are?
I'd say none of them.
Correct. None of them know who you are. How many of them care who you are? None. They do what they are programmed to do. So, and they don't know the difference between good or bad. That's a subjective reality thing that we give something meaning. So if you go around saying negative things about yourself, what do you think your neurons are going to do?
React.
They're going to try to make that come true. If you truly believe you're a loser, or you're ugly, or you're stupid, your neurons, your brain, is going to act in such a way to make that true. Because what you're saying is, to my brain, this is an important thing, you need to remember this. I'm stupid. I can't remember things. I forget. I'm undependable. I'm a liar. And that's what your brain does, because you keep telling it that. Because otherwise, what does your brain do? It's going to forget 70% of what you learned today if you do not review it tomorrow. And reviewing it tomorrow tells your brain, this is something I need to know, I need to remember. So it's like learning to play the piano. You keep practicing it.
It's like a pathways, right?
Exactly. So it's when you get down to a cellular level, neurons look like what? Trees. Neurons look like trees, and they have branches called what?
Synapses?
No.
Starts with a C.
No. Starts with a D.
Oh,
It's sort of like Desmond, but not really. Dendrites. Correct. Dendrites. Okay, so this is a dendrite. This is a dendrite. And here's another dendrite from another one. What is this called?
branches?
Where the two dendrites touch.
Would that be synapses?
That is the synapse. Okay, that's the synapse. And where they touch, they exchange chemicals. They have little things that exchange chemicals, that emit chemicals, and those are called vesicles. So when you learn something, you are increasing the pathway. You just keep repeating this, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger from millions of synaptic connections.
I told you,
Okay.
I said, when you research.
So our brains are designed to forget 70% of what we learn if we don't review it within the 24 hours. And if you want to test
No, I
that,
was talking to one.
think about the hour that Nolan Bushnell was here. If I said, write down everything he said, how much are you going to write?
Probably like 20%.
20?
Especially since I'm
I'd say 30% of 30% of 30% of 30% of 30%, like 2 minutes worth of stuff. Okay? Because that's how our brains are designed. They're not designed like a hard drive, experience at once. Why? Because all of the senses that come into our brain come in through what? Everything that comes into our brain comes in from what?
Senses?
Our senses. Okay? So we might not be aware of it, but our senses are figuring out, is it cold in here? Is it windy in here? How does it smell in here? Is there danger? Is there a threat? We don't have to stop and say, how cold is it? Our brain is doing that automatically, right? When it gets cold, or if you're in a crowded room and somebody says your name, what happens? You hear it. Okay? You're having a conversation with somebody else. Somebody says, hey, Ernie. In the airports, it used to be that they have white courtesy telephones. They don't need them anymore because everybody has a smartphone. But you constantly be in the airport doing something. You say, would so-and-so please go to a white courtesy phone? Would so-and-so please go to a white courtesy phone? And you know what happens when they do that?
Multiple people show up?
No. Well, it could be. But what happens is people go to the phone because they hear their name, no matter what they're doing. Because our brain is doing this. It's trying to figure out, what do I need to do to operate? How about driving a car? Who drives here? Okay, so driving a car. So you remember the first time you drove, right? Scary, right?
Yeah.
Okay? And you were very hyper vigilant on looking in mirrors, gas pedal, brake, how fast do I go, how hard do I push the brake down, all of those things, right? And then how were you 6 months later?
Automatic.
Automatic. Why? Because that's how our brain works. Learning to drive was important. We said it's important. We went out and practiced. We did it. But we mainly said, I don't want to get in a wreck. Who remembers the first time they put something in an electrical outlet? Okay, how old were you?
I was like 4.
Okay, how about the first time you got burned?
It's like 5.
Okay, how about the first time you cut yourself?
6.
Okay, do you remember that?
Yeah.
How many other things do you think you remember from the time you were 4, 5, or 6?
Things I heard.
Not very many. Why? Because our system said, I need to remember, don't touch something hot. That's bad. I got to remember, don't put something in an electrical outlet. Bad. Okay, because that's how our brains work. So it's very important to know this, because when we get into situations for work, or applying for work, or what we want to do, we need to figure out who's in control. Am I controlling you, because I know what buttons to push on you? Or are you controlling me, because you know what buttons to push? Are we doing something synergistic, which means what?
They're working together.
Synergy, yeah, working together, or something, well, that would be more symbiotic, okay? We're both doing something that benefits both of us. Synergistic is generally like 1 + 1 = 3. By working together, we can accomplish things that we couldn't do on our own. Okay, do I need to be in a synergistic relationship or experience with you right now? Is it adversarial? Do I need to be adversarial? Do I need to show you who's the boss? Okay, so it's very important to success is to know why you act the way you do. And the reality is, most of the reasons we act are not things that we are in control of. When we do certain things, our bodies secrete certain hormones, like testosterone, like oxytocin, like cortisol. And when we do that, that affects our behavior. What does testosterone do?
Makes you angry.
Well, I mean, it can make you angry, but
Okay, it gives you more energy, in effect. Your brain works faster, your muscles seem to be stronger. If you need to be aggressive, you become more aggressive. You know, if you're playing sports, you get your testosterone going. Okay, so you think better, you think faster. What does cortisol do?
Probably like the opposite.
Okay, cortisol is inhibits stress. So if you're in a situation where you could be nervous, if your body secretes cortisol, you feel less stressed. How it does is it makes your brain kind of foggy. You can't process stuff as quickly. So when you go in for an interview, you want to have high testosterone so you can be thinking fast. And you don't want to have your brain fogged because you're under stress. If you feel under stress, your body's going to release cortisol. Try to. Okay, what you want is you want to feel in control. Oxytocin is another thing that's secreted based upon our behavior, and it also affects our behavior. So when you're under a stressful situation, what your body wants to do is release oxytocin. Because what happens when you're in a stressful situation to your blood vessels or your blood pressure? It goes up. Okay. What you want, what's really happening is, in nature, when we're in a stressful situation, you want your heart beating faster. Okay? You might want testosterone cycling through your body. You might want a lot of blood and oxygen getting to your brain and stuff so you can perform better, right? So stress is not bad. But if you think stress is bad, then your body doesn't release oxytocin. And so what happens is your blood vessels constrict and blood pressure goes up. Okay, right? Simple physics. But what you want, and there's TED Talks on this, what you want to do is you want, when you're under a stressful situation, you want to say, okay, this is my body responding as it should to stress. My heart rate's going up, That means I'm able to think faster, think quicker, have more strength, move faster. Time seems to slow down because I'm more alert. My body's doing what it should. Then your brain releases oxytocin, which keeps your blood vessels large, which means your blood pressure doesn't go up even though your heart rate is up. And when you're in that kind of situation, that's described as being in a situation of courage. Highly stressful, right? But you go do it anyway. And so we behave the way we do because of these external factors, not because we choose to do it. And the more we know about this, the more in control we are and the more we can be successful in doing what we're doing, if we know why we behave the way we do. So our program at Larson, which you should all go to, is 16 weeks, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's a commitment. But you know what? 16 weeks goes like that. And you're there. It's not a long time. Don't think that you can't do it. And then we're now getting people jobs while they're going to school. So, consider doing that now. Don't wait till later. All right. Now we're going to talk about employment planning. So go to a page in your book. Put at the top employment planning. Hopefully the people that got the composition books remembered what to do, and then you have a table of contents. And you're just not taking notes like you used to. This is a reference manual. This is a thing where you need to have a table of contents, and you have page numbers of where to go. And always write on the right side page. Don't write on the left. Why, Ernie? Okay, did you just remember just to write on the right? Or did you forget that?
I didn't know I was supposed to not.
You don't remember when we were giving you the papers folded in half?
Yeah.
I said write on the right side, don't write on the left.
I don't recall the reason.
Okay, the reason is you're supposed to review your notes. Okay, the left side is to add to the notes you wrote to give it more clarity.
Oh, okay.
Right? What? You're mumbling, I can't hear you.
Now it makes sense.
Okay. All right, so employment planning workshop. Take what you believe regarding employment and put it over here. So when I'm saying stuff, don't get yourself in this thing of having a internal debate whether you think that's true or not. Just get this whole thing, just accept what I'm saying is the absolute truth. That this is what you need to do to get stable and meaningful employment. Number one. What's number one? I haven't told you yet. Okay, that was a trick question. Number one. What do I love to do? Okay, what you want to do here is you want to figure out if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? Because the premise is, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Okay? So the first thing is, what do I love to do? A lot of people say, I don't know. So I'll say, okay, if you had a hobby, what's your hobby? Because you do that and you don't get paid, right? You love to do it. People don't get paid to do their hobby, by definition. Right? What do I love to do? If I could do anything I want, what do I love to do? Now, some people have this whole long list. Okay, we say, okay, now, if you have that whole long list, which of those would you do for free? What happens to the list? It gets shorter, probably, most likely. It does. It always does. It gets shorter. Because I love doing this, but would I do it for free? Nah. I don't love it that much. Okay, what do I love to do? Now, if you still have a lot of them, you say, of the ones that are left. So we started with this many. So what would I do for free? We'll take that one out, take that one out, take that one out. And take that one out. So now I'm down to this, 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 because you need to get to one. This doesn't work if you have more than one thing. You have to get it down to one. And you say, well, which of these would I pay to do? I love it so much I'd pay to do it. You can say, well, I would do this for free, but I wouldn't pay to do that. Well, let's say you're now down to 2. So if you're down to 2, you can say, well, would I rather do one than the other? If you come to the conclusion, no, I can't choose, then just pick one. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Do something like that. And just pick one. But here you need to get to the point of coming up with one thing that you love to do. Because this is too complicated to do if you have more than one thing you love to do. Okay, what's the second thing? What's the second thing, Desmond?
Is this just like the first thing we haven't told us yet?
Exactly. There we go.
Because I was going to answer legitimately.
Okay, well, what do you think the legitimate answer is?
Let's see, what we love to do.
Can it
What are
make
you
money?
willing to do?
Nope. Okay.
Okay, well that's
Okay, number 2. Find 3 to 5 companies that do that. Okay? And we say, what do you like to do? Don't just say like, well, I like making fish lures. Okay, what exactly about fish lures do you like? Do you like actually making them? Do you like designing them? Do you like testing them? Do you like talking to other people about them? Find 3 to 5 companies that do what you do, that do number 1. Do you think that there's something that you like that somebody doesn't do? That's legal? No, probably not. There's probably not going to be anything you can think of that somebody isn't doing. Unless it violates the laws of physics, but you can't actually love to do that anyway, right? I love to walk through walls. Well, that doesn't count because we can't actually walk through walls.
well, not without breaking through them.
Yeah, well, that's not walking through the wall, right? That's walking through the opening where there used to be a wall, okay? So find 3 to 5 companies that do that. Now here, so what Google apps will you use to do number 1?
There may be
Search, right?
yeah.
YouTube.
Perhaps.
Well,
I'd probably,
not necessarily to figure out what you love to do.
I'd probably for companies.
Huh?
I'd probably for companies.
Okay, so companies, you're going to do these things plus maps. And we teach our students at Larson how to do Google Apps. Because that's what gets you the job. And that's what gets you the skills you. So you learn to use maps. Or you would use a map. Because it's very important where these companies are located.
Right.
And it's not just located like, well, they're in Las Vegas or they're in Henderson. It's like where exactly they're located.
Right.
Because you might not have a car or a scooter. You might have to take the bus. And if there's no bus line, your bus stop nearby, it's not gonna work out. You're not gonna walk 40 minutes in the snow, rain, sleet, heat. You're not gonna do that. It just won't work. I know that because of our school. We have people that live at Catholic Charities that have to walk 2 miles to come to school, carrying all of their possessions with them, unshowered, in dirty clothes, and after a while they just can't make it for 16 weeks. It's just too hard. 3:30 in the afternoon, after you spent 7 hours in school and you got to walk back to Catholic Charities in 112-degree heat. It's just really hard, and you haven't had food. Okay, so that's step number 2. Find 3 to 5 companies that do that. Number 3, research. research number 2. How much research? What's the standard? Huh? What is the standard of research?
By time, like amount of time researching? Or
Well, so your goal, so if I just say research, that could take you 5 minutes, it could take you 5 years. Okay, so by the standard, I mean research them to where you know them better than what?
They know themselves?
No, better than the interviewer. You're never going to be able to know them better than everybody in that company knows that company. Okay? But you can know it better than the interviewer. Because the interviewer sees his job as what?
Maybe just a job.
What's his job? What's the job of the interviewer at the company that would be interviewing you? What's his job? Interviewing. Okay? His job isn't to know everything about that company. So here, this is what the Jesuits do. So when I was in school, the thing was this was when the communism was a big thing. If you want to convince somebody not to be a communist and to be a capitalist, what do you need to know more?
About communism,
Why?
so you can show them what's wrong with it.
Yeah, you need to know more about communism than they know about communism. If you know about capitalism but you don't know about communism, are you going to change their minds about communism? No. So you need to know the company more than the interviewer. Why? Because you need to persuade the interviewer that you really want to work there. And how do you do that?
Research.
Do you do this? Audrey, I really want to work here. Do you do that? Is that a good strategy? No, that's not a good strategy. That's like acting like a little kid, right? I really want to work here. Why? Because I do. Okay, no, but that's what people say all the time. They don't stamp their feet, and they might not say it exactly how I say it, but that's the gist of what they say. If you say, I really want to work here, and they say, why, what do you need to be able to reach into in your mind? Access. What do you need to access in their mind? In your mind?
Your research.
Yeah. Why things, facts about the company, evidence to support your statement. Okay, what's the 4th thing? Create a plan. Okay, so let's not confuse research with the plan. Now when you're doing your research, what Google apps are you going to use besides search, YouTube, Maps? Okay, you're going to use Drive, right, because you need to store your information somewhere. Probably Gmail. If you're really doing your research, you might send emails out asking for stuff. Google Plus. Other social media things to do your research on them. Now you need to create a plan. Plan to do what?
Impress the interviewer, maybe?
No. You need a plan on how you're going to get the job. Okay? Obvious. But you need to create a plan to get the job. The plan could be, I'm going to send them my resume with the cover letter. The plan might be, I'm going to send the president of the company an email talking about an experience I had with that company that was very positive. This is getting on the radar. This is, how do I get on the radar screen? Do I wait for them to put something on one of these job engines? No, I don't wait. Every good company today has a section on the front page of their website, generally at the very bottom, called what?
Careers.
Careers, employment opportunities. They're always looking for good people. Part of your plan could be, I really want to do this, but I'm not qualified to do that, but I want to work there. So I'm gonna get any job I can get. Why?
To pay the bills?
No,
Oh, that would come back.
because once I'm there, what? And I do a good job, what? Once I'm at the company, I do a good job, what happens?
They promoted you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna recognize my talent, I'm gonna be promoted. This is part of the plan. It's not, the plan isn't just I'm gonna send them my resume. That might be the only plan, but you need to create the plan. Now, here's the thing about the resume. So part of your plan is going to be resume. How many resumes? One?
Well, if we're going for like hard copies, then.
No,
Maybe like drafts of the resume?
no. One resume for each employer.
Oh, so, okay.
So,
Oh, well,
Okay, one of the things everybody's taught is we're going to give you a good resume. One size fits all. No, you don't do that. Okay, so at the school we did a thing, demonstrating, we don't have time here, but we said, okay, pretend you want to get a job at an Italian restaurant. And you pick a restaurant called Olive Garden, and you pick a restaurant called Carmine's NYC. Now you go to both of those websites, and you go to the what part of their website?
about us.
About us. Do you think they're going to be the same? You think they're going to be anywhere in the same universe? Why would you send them the same resume then?
Doesn't make sense then.
Huh?
It wouldn't make sense to do.
Well, because somebody told you just need one resume.
Mm.
Okay? But in the real world, if you think about it for 0.68 seconds, you wouldn't do that because who do they want to hire? No, they want to hire people who want to work there.
Okay.
Every employer wants to hire, every good employer. Every good, and you don't want to have, you can't have a career with a bad employer. Okay? Every good employer only wants to hire people that really want to work for them. Sometimes they can't always do that, but that's what they always want to do, is to hire somebody who really wants to work here. Why? If you don't like working in a place, is it going to show?
Yes.
Okay. Are your customers going to notice?
Yes.
Absolutely. So if you really want to work there, are the customers going to notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the employer going to notice that? Yeah. Okay. So how do they know when they get your resume whether you really want to work there?
If you talk-
Just because you said I really want to work here?
If you like put like research about their company on it.
Okay. Well, not research. Okay. So here's what you do. Write this down. Don't leave home without it. You go to the About section. I'm not going to write this word for word, so you're going to have to take good notes. Go to the About section, copy 100% of what they say about us. Copy it. What's the easy way to copy?
Control
Control
C,
C.
Control V.
Was it me?
No. What's the easy way to select?
Oh, Control A.
Control A. Okay, but that doesn't usually work on a website. So you have to hold your left mouse button down and scroll and select the whole thing. Then what do you do with the mouse to copy it?
Right click.
Right click, copy. Okay. Then you go into Docs, and you have a document called Research, blank, company name, and then I always like to put the date after, because I think in terms of time, in terms of years. So I create a document called Research Carmines, February 2016, or January 2000, whatever the month is. And then what do? What do I do?
Paste what?
Paste, right, yeah, paste. I paste the thing in there. Okay, now here's an important little tip. I paste. Then I clear formatting. Why do I do that?
So you don't get like the weird stuff they put in the website.
Weird stuff and different fonts and this and that. I want the text. I want the words. Okay? Then, after I clear formatting, I change color to gray. It's readable, but it's definitely not dark black. Okay? Then, what do? I read it, and I turn key words, phrases to black. And there's a lot of reasons to do that. Just take my word for it right now, because time is racing. So now what do I end up having? A document that looks like what?
With bold letters that they're.
Not bold,
Or black.
black.
It like highlights what's important in the document.
It stands out, right?
Yeah, what they're looking for.
I could be 5 feet away. I could be where I can't read the words, but I can see that line is highlighted. It's not highlighted, it's darker.
Dark, yeah.
Okay? I do it that way because when we're doing this and we have our brain going and we're trying to do this, we have consistency. When you start using highlight colors like yellow or blue or green, what happens is you have to remember, okay, yellow means this. I need to do this in yellow. You know, it gets a bit complicated and confusing. And then when I copy them into my resume, I have to unbold them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I make the important things black and everything else is gray, and when I copied in, what do I have to do? Nothing, because it's already ready, right? I might have to change the font. But other than that, I can just copy and paste into my resume. So I'm looking for the key words that make Carmine's different from Olive Garden. Carmine's, one of the ways they describe themselves is wow factor food. They don't do that at Olive Garden. So I know when I see that, wow factor food is important to Carmine's. So I need to make sure somehow in my resume, either my work history or description of myself, that I am taking all of the key words that they're looking for from the About section of their website into my resume. Now, other things I do on research is I'm using YouTube and I'm doing all of other stuff. Zappos, for example, I don't think it's on their website, I haven't checked recently, but in their videos about working at Zappos, they talk about we want to hire people who are what? A little bit weird.
A little bit weird.
People that love selling shoes and that are a little bit weird. Because that should create a good customer experience. So if Zappos says we're looking for people who are a little bit weird, what happens if you don't have that in your resume? What are they going to think? Probably. You're not a little bit weird. How many other shoe places would you think they would want you to put, I'm a little bit weird?
Not a lot.
And you don't say that, you might say, you know, people consider me a little bit weird because I like dressing up on holidays. Guess what they like doing at Zappos on holidays? Dressing up. Okay? If they don't know this about you, they're not going to think you really care. They're not going to think you're a fit. So why would you have one resume? Because it's easy. And when you have 3 to 5 resumes, how many companies are you applying to? 3 to 5. You're not sending your resume out to anyone else. And so when you're in your interview and they say, are you looking for work? And they're saying it like this because they want you to think the right answer is what?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's a trap. Okay, because the next thing might be something like, well, tell me about it. So, Adria, are you looking for work? Huh?
No.
Okay. Are you looking for work?
No.
Are you?
Yeah, that yeah.
Okay. How about you, Desmond?
Yes.
Okay, so that was a question mark. So in my mind, I'm saying he doesn't know whether he's looking for work.
I mean, it's just,
I'm the interviewer, so we're role playing.
okay, for, yes.
Okay. Tell me about
Uh,
it. Okay, don't start a sentence with when you're in your interview. Huh? Okay, so what I'm trying to get to is, how many places is he looking? And a lot of people think, I'm gonna send out 10 resumes a day, I'm gonna send out 20. I think some of you guys might have been in here when we did that. Yeah, I'd send out 40, I'd send out 42.
Over like 100.
You know, guys thinking the more the better. Guess what? It's the opposite. So somebody says, tell me about it. You say, well, here's what I really want to do. I'm only applying, I'm only going to work at either you, Carmine's, Olive Garden, or Spaghetti Factory. Now all of a sudden this is a new dynamic. Because not only is the guy thinking, are you good enough to work here? He's also thinking, if I pass on you and you go work over there and you end up being somebody really good, that's going to come back on me. It's just like guys who write books, they always make it a point to say how many people sent them rejection slips in the beginning. Just kind of to rub it in. I submitted my manuscript to you, you sent me a no, I came out with the bestseller. Who's the idiot now? Okay, so you only want to have 3 to 5 resumes. I'm going to get a job in you or one of your 3 to 5, whatever blank competitors. Now they're right there thinking, huh? Nobody else is saying this to me. This person says they really want to work here. They're interviewing here. They're telling me how many places, who they are. Well, why do you want to work here? What do you now talk about? Your research. Huh. Nobody else that has come in here has done this much research. I didn't even know that about this company. Audrey told me this about this guy. I didn't even know that. Okay, so you create a plan. And then step number 5 is what? Hmm?
Maybe an action plan?
Execute the plan, correct. If it's a good company, how often are they hiring?
Always.
Yeah. The reason you have 3 to 5 companies in play is because statistically, within 90 days, you should have this position. If you do this, within 90 days, you should have the position. Now, I'm also going to talk about interview. So resume and interview, because I want to talk about the interview. So you execute the plan. Whatever your plan was, you execute the plan. But there's an asterisk here in executing the plan that you need to keep in mind. Military strategy. No plan what? No plan what?
Goes as planned.
Okay, no plan survives contact with the what?
Ground.
So military strategy. Hint. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Right. Okay, I believe that was first said by a military strategist named, a Prussian military strategist named von Moltke. No plan survives contact with the enemy. So what do you need to do? Backup plan. Okay. If your plan is, the way I'm going to get on the radar screen there is I have to do something that they're going to like, hey, I have a new recipe idea that they're going to love. Well, you need to have a backup plan because, well, what if they don't love your recipe idea? Or if your idea is, I'm just going to submit my resume with the cover letter to the employment section, the backup plan is, well, what if they don't call you? Because your plan is, I'm going to do it this way, because they're then supposed to do what?
Give me a call back.
contact me back, right?
Right.
Okay, well, you gotta have a backup plan just in case they don't. And this is another place where the calendar becomes extremely important.
to the front desk,
And on the
please.
calendar-
To the front desk, please. Thank you.
On your calendar, you put down there the date you want to have your employment by. Here's the date I want my job by. Why do we do that from a cerebral cortex neurons point of view?
So, you know that if we don't make it by that time,
There's no if.
oh, so,
We're telling our brain, this is it.
right.
And when you have a date, when you say this is when something needs to happen by, when an opportunity pops up, it's like somebody saying, hey Desmond, go to the white courtesy phone. Boom, you see it. You're not even aware, boom, it pops up. And you become aware of opportunities. So you need to have dates on your calendar. Okay, what date am I going to start executing the plan? What's the date I mailed out the resumes? Because when you're talking to the interviewer, you might want to say, on January 24th, I sent you my resume. Because how are you being perceived at that point? Organized, conscientious, diligent, disciplined. Okay, so you execute the plan, you have that, but you have to have a backup plan. And you have to be confirming to yourself within 90 days, I'm going to get this. And then it's 89 days. And it's 88. I'm going to get this position. I'm going to do it. What did Jim Carrey do that propelled him, that he talks about that propelled him to being successful? When he was homeless, living out of his car in LA. He wrote himself a $10 million check and he put it in his wallet and he said, one day I'm going to be able to cash this. What did Grigory Rasputin do? Who was Grigory Rasputin? Russian mystic that was killed when they killed the Tsar, or after the Tsar.
Oh, sorry, okay.
First they tried to poison him,
Yeah.
and he didn't die.
Assassination.
They invited him over and gave him these pastries that had enough strychnine to kill an elephant. He passed out. Russians were sitting around drinking, congratulating themselves. Then he jumps up, scares them to death, starts going after them. So everybody takes out their guns and they're blasting away at him. Hey, John. They're blasting away at him. They think he's dead and they roll him up in the carpet, chop a hole in the ice in the river. They dump his body in the river. And then in the spring, when they find the body, what did he die of? He drowned.
Yeah.
Okay, Russian mystic. Okay, so we execute the plan. But we have to have a backup plan because the plan might not work. The last thing, I'm going to come back to the interview. The last thing is we get a job. And I put that in quotation marks, so put that in quotation marks. Because a job is supposed to be the thing that pays the bills until this happens. Do you think you can do telemarketing? Who wants to go do telemarketing? Okay. Do you think you can do telemarketing if you really want to do something else? You want to work at Carmine's? Do you think you can do telemarketing until Carmine's calls you? Yeah, you can. And you know what you're going to do? When you're on the phone with people, you're going to automatically kind of synthesize these two things that you want to do. So when you're on the phone, you're going to be saying, okay, I'm going to pretend like I'm a waiter. I'm going to pretend like I'm a British person. I'm going to pretend I'm this. And you're going to make it so that it's going to help you be better at this job. You're going to say, somebody told me, this guy from Larson told me once, that people are open to suggestions. So like if you're in a restaurant, you're working as a waiter, and it's lunchtime or dinner time, and it's say a hamburger place, and they sell milkshakes, If you're a waiter and you walk up to a table and there's 4 or 6 people there, and you say, we have great milkshakes, or we have great root beer floats, not only is it likely that one person's going to say yes, it's likely that because one person said yes, somebody else is going to say yes. How many people normally order a root beer float? No, that's right. Now, how many people in here have ordered a root beer float? Almost no one. People are open to suggestion, especially if they're in an environment where they want to have a good time. So you take a job that you would not normally take because it sucks, but it's part of a plan, and not only is it not going to bother you, you're going to turn it into something positive. You're going to do a better job than anyone else there. And you're going to feel good about it. I had fun today. Here's what I did. And I don't need to feel bad because I'm not this job. I'm this other job. I'm the actor. I'm just doing this until I have until I was successful at a casting call. That's who I am. I'm not this. The path that everybody's going down when you're doing these resumes and you're mailing them out is you're becoming this, and you don't want to become this. Oh, telemarketing, I don't want to do it. Oh, we had a guy today at school who, Remnant Oil or something like that. This is a company that goes to restaurants, casinos, and they sort through the garbage, taking out plastics and glass and things like that. And he didn't have this. He was down to the desperation level of saying, well, this is all that there is. And he felt really bad because this is who he would become. There is no, I'm this, I'm just doing this until this happens. So doing this is not bad if you have this. This is what you need to focus on. So now quickly I'm going to talk about interview. What's the fundamental purpose of the interview? No. The fundamental purpose, pretend this is a resume. The fundamental purpose of the interview is to see if you're this person. Because this is who I'm interviewing. I like this person. I really like this person. They're one of the 10 people I'm interviewing. I got 400 people that sent me resumes. This person I really like. This is one of the 10 people I might hire. I don't know you. I need to know if you're this person. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do to find out if you're this person. Did you write this resume, Ernie?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about this job right here that is the second to last job you had.
My second to last job was
Okay.
electric engineer.
Well, that's not what it says right here. Now, if you didn't write your resume, if somebody wrote it for you,
Right.
what is your response going to be? Your boom, automatic non-thinking response.
Right.
What's it going to be?
Well, I wrote it.
Or someone else wrote it.
If somebody else wrote it, what's your response going to be?
Someone else wrote it.
No, you're not going to say that. You're going to lie. You're going to lie.
Maybe
Right.
Never start a relationship out on a lie, ever, ever, ever. But they're only saying it just as a quick test.
Right.
It could have absolutely said that.
Whether or not
I'm not saying it doesn't say that. They're trying to find out, is this you? Did somebody else write this resume? Here's the fastest way for me to do it. Tell me about this.
So they're gonna want to.
That's not what this says.
Okay.
If you didn't write it, and you weren't expecting that, 100% of the time they're going to know like that you didn't write your resume. This isn't you, and depending upon what you say next, I either don't trust you, or I have to decide, well, do I want to see if I like you? Not a good idea to have somebody else write your resume, even though it sounds like it's a good idea, because you can't really write. You write, you suck as a writer. This is what you would be saying to yourself, not me saying. You say that I suck as a writer, I can't write my own resume. I need you, professional person, to write my resume for me. And when I get it, I say, wow, God, you really make me look good. I could never do this. And I get absorbed in how you describe me, how I feel what you wrote. And I don't memorize what you wrote. So when somebody says to me, that's not what this says right here, I go into shock mode. I don't know what to say to that because I don't really know whether it says that. Okay? If it's a good job, if it's one of these 3 to 5 places you really, really want to work, you work there free, you pay to work there, guess what you don't get? You don't get to work there because you're not believable. Because you sort of lied, even if you didn't say it, but you know, kind of the idea is when you send in a resume, this is supposed to be who you are. Okay? So that's a thing to be prepared about. But you know what? If you do your research and you do what I said to do, go to the About section, cut, copy, paste, look for words that match who you are. If you do that and they say, that's not what it says right here, what are you going to say? If they're wrong, in other words, you catch them in the text. You say, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it does say that. You act with confidence, and they want to say, all they want to see from you is, did you write this? And if I accuse you of not writing it and you didn't write it, how are you going to respond? Like you didn't write it. Busted. If you did write it, and I say you didn't write it, how are you going to respond?
Knowing that you wrote it.
It's are you sure it doesn't say that? Because I think it does. Really? I think it says that. They're going to get from you, even if you're being polite and saying, really? I kind of think it does. Even if you say it that way, they're going to get, they believe it said what he just said. He believes that it says this. So he probably did write it. That means if I like this resume and he wrote the resume, what do I probably like? Him. Okay? So you only want to send out 3 to 5 resumes. Now you need to have a job. And what I'm saying is anything that you have to do that's legal, legitimate, whatever, if you have to do it, if you have to say to yourself, I'm only doing this for 90 days because within 90 days this is going to happen, not might happen, not could happen, not should happen. This is going to happen within 90 days. We can get ourselves to do anything for 90 days. 90 days goes pretty fast. So in the interview, the purpose of the interview is to see if you are this person. Because they like this person. Now, the simple thing for the interview process is to focus on 3 parts. So write in your books 555. 555. What's the first 5? First 5 seconds. What's the 50? Seconds. First 50 seconds. And what's the last 5?
The last 5 seconds?
No, it was a trick question. Minutes. First 5 minutes. You need to prepare your interview for 5 minutes. The first 5 seconds, there's certain things you need to do. The first 50 seconds, there's things you need to do. And in the first 5 minutes, what happens is, at the end of the first 5 minutes, 80% of the time, they've already decided whether they're going to hire you. Unless somebody comes along better than you after you. Okay, so in the first 5 minutes, it's going to be, okay, we would hire Bryce unless somebody comes along that's better than Bryce. In the first 5 minutes. An interview might be 20 minutes. Don't expect in the first, at 5 minutes, they're going to say, okay, that's it. They're not going to do that. You're going to go the whole 20 minutes. And they might want to be polite. Might not want to hurt your feelings. So you suck. You'd never have a job here. When I was working with IBM, after we'd go into a company and meet with the people and who's the CTO, who's the CFO, who's the this, who's the that. We'd go to the bar, have a drink, and we would talk about all the people like they do at Zappos. When they get together after they interview people. And a typical standard with IBM was, that guy's the CFO or the CTO, which means what? Chief Technical Officer, head computer guy. That guy's the CTO of this company. He wouldn't even have a job at IBM. That's what they like to say, these guys like to say. He wouldn't even have a job at IBM. So you got 5 minutes. Do you think you can adequately prepare for an interview if it's only 5 minutes? Yeah. So you just have to really get 5 minutes down to get them to believe, number one, you're the best person for the job. Why? Why are you the best person for the job?
And make them
Love
love
what
what
they do. Or
I'm going to make you more money than anyone
or
else.
pay you more.
Or, depending upon the job, I'm going to save you more money than anyone else. You want to now take control. When you say that, why should we hire you? Well, I'm going to make you more money than anyone else applying for this job. Okay, you got my attention. How? You can start by saying the things that everybody else said. I'm a hard worker, I'm motivated, I'm dedicated, and disciplined. I'm loyal, I'll always show up. That's like everyone else. The reason I'm going to make you more money than anyone else is because I know the cloud. And I can help you get to the cloud. And the cloud is going to be more customers or more efficient. But in order for you to say that, you actually have to go to Larson. And this is the president of Larson Training Centers right here, Dr. John Wynn. So John, you got 3 minutes. What do you want to tell everybody? Get them to come to the school.
Come to school. That's 5 seconds, 50 seconds. It's a good place to be for 5 minutes. No, I think if you enjoy it, Ed's been working and doing a tremendous job in teaching our students about real life experience. One thing going to school, I've been to college, and one thing about college, you don't always get the on hands or the structure or the real life, day-to-day role of a job.